good evening, and yet again, good evening, friends. You already know who it is, but I don't mind giving you a slight reminder. It's your best friend, your good Judy, your next door neighbor, your niece, your cousin, your nephew. And you know, I've recently been promoted to great auntie. This is Norman J. Liverpool IV, and I'm so excited that you tuned in for our second edition of What's the LGBT? So, you know, we got some housekeeping stuff to do first. So first, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor for the evening, which is Hungry Hustle, the movement, the lifestyle, the brand. They have whatever you need for your custom apparel. They do all of my t-shirts, my caps, keychains, journals, anything that can be printed on, they've got you. And we are so excited that they have partnered with us for this evening. And to reach them, you can just email hungryhustlemovement@gmail.com. Again, that's hungryhustlemovement@gmail.com. So as you guys know, Evolve, which is my 5-week signature mentorship program, is starting on August 3rd. And I want to talk to you just very quickly about what my promises to you are by working with me. So number one, we're going to unleash your unicorn power. You're going to stand out and shine. You're going to own your own story, and you're going to walk in next level confidence. That's my commitment to you. Following the live broadcast, I will post the link in the comments for you to register. I have reduced the enrollment, so that's not an obstacle. Let's get it, my friends. Lastly, I want to tell you on this week's episode of Sassy Assy Saturday, we are going to be discussing the topic of stand out and shine. So again, we have Sassy Assy Saturdays every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. right here on my Facebook Live. We have now come to the section of the show, which is called The Gag. So this is where we talk about things that are newsworthy. And so I found a story online that was really interesting. So a mom threw a gender reveal party for her 17-year-old after getting it wrong. And it was a beautiful, touching story on how, you know, this mom was the mother of a trans child. And, you know, they had the baby shower, you know, all the time ago. And then to make that right, they had a gender reveal as that individual's true self. So I thought that was really, really touching. Now, another thing that I've noticed on the news is actor Scarlett Johansson stirred controversy about 2 years ago when it was announced that she was going to be playing a trans character on a movie called Rub and Tug. And she ended up withdrawing from the film, but now Deadline reports that they're vamping it back up. So they have Our Lady J, who's on the project, who has written for shows like Pose and Transparent, and even appeared on a RuPaul's Drag Race, writing the script, and the part now is going to be played by a trans actor. So I think that that's really, really, really cool. We're breezing right through this. I'm breezing through all of this because I'm really excited about our topic for tonight. So I come to the part of the show where it is reading is fundamental. And so I want to tell you a little bit about a book that I'm reading. And I knew I was forgetting a graphic. That was the one. So I am reading a book called Hide and Seek. There's No Truth in Fear. The author is Todd Kane. I'm actually friends with this author on Facebook and started reading this book a couple of days ago. And it's literally like you are in his living room, like listening to him tell his story. So I'll read a little bit from the back, and it says, for nearly 50 years, Todd Kane played a complex and exhausting game of hide and seek with the truth. This father, veteran, entrepreneur, philanthropist, and now author hid his past experiences and his sexuality for reasons he couldn't fully explain until now. So I highly recommend this. Like I said, I've just started a couple of days ago, and I like the way that it's written because it's written in like parts, but each little section is short, so it makes for a quick and easy read, I should say. So you want to check out Hide and Seek by Todd Kane. I believe you can purchase it on Amazon. Now I'm going to allow myself to take a breath before we get to the next part, which is, this is always my favorite part of the show, where I get to introduce my special guests. So my first special guest, you already know him. He is bigger than life. He's been on a couple episodes with me before. I call him my Mama A, one of the very first people that I was able to be openly myself and genuinely myself with, Adrian Hayes. This is what he says about himself. He says he's just a fabulous little Black man born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. He attended Talladega College and Auburn University. He's extremely and happily married for 2 years, and him and his partner have been together for 9. They currently live in Federal Way, and in the Pacific Northwest, and he is a true Virgo in every definition, and I can attest to that. That is very true. And his favorite saying is, "Try Jesus, not me." So we're going to have Adrian Hayes on. Now, these next guests are first timers to my platform, and I am so thrilled to have them on. Brandon and Gregory Pitcher Gully met in 2007 at a local Las Vegas bar by random during karaoke. And it's crazy because karaoke is like not something I want to be doing right now. It was hosted by a mutual friend. They were married in September of 2018 in Las Vegas and have since operated several businesses together to include Brandon's management company, Max Management, and Gregory's entertainment studio, Zitmo B. They currently reside in Riverside, California, and are continuing to build their own heaven on earth. I thought that was beautiful. So we're going to bring my first guest, Adrian Hayes, and also Brandon and Gregory. Hi, guys.
Hi. Hello.
Thank you guys so much for being on tonight. You know, the topic tonight is race in relationships, and I felt that last week was a great introduction to this topic. However, I felt that there was a little bit more to flesh out, and so I made it a 2-part series because given the current climate, I feel like it was just appropriate. So according to the Journal of LGBT Family Studies by Taylor and Francis Online, in the early 2000s, there was a study done. 13 interracial same-sex couples, 8 were male and 5 were female, participated in a 30-minute conversation focused on perceptions of stress and coping in the relationship. The analysis of the study transcribed conversations revealed that the majority of couples experience both race-related and sexual identity-related stress. Almost half of the couples perceived that their identities as same-sex couples were the source of more stress than their identities as interracial couples. Across the full sample, couples described using 5 coping strategies, including seeking support, meaning making, using humor, and active problem solving to get through this. Implications for future research and cultural competent practices were also discussed. So the reason why I shared that is because as queer people, as part of the LGBTQ plus community, we have that. And then to add on the aspect of being in an interracial relationship or marriage can kind of sometimes can just be like adding like a second scarlet letter onto that. You know, I spoke at CSN and talked about my Black gay experience and how that was so different for me having to manage that duality. So that being said, I would like Brandon and Gregory, I would like to give you the floor and just introduce yourself to everyone that we have watching us tonight, and just, you know, let us know a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, my name is Gregory, and this is my husband, Brandon. We are, like I said, we're currently living right now in Riverside. We met each other through karaoke, one of the most interesting stories, actually. I was actually up singing. I don't remember the context of the song, but I was up singing, and here I hear him in the background. He's on a platted stage, probably about 20 feet away. He says, "We can't hear you with your shirt on." And so he screams that out to me. I'm up there singing. I hear it in back of the voice, and I'm like, "Who's that person screaming at me?" So I ended up walking over to them, and I'm being coy, trying to pretend like I'm not interested in trying to talk to them a bit. And I just grabbed my little beer and I just sit it right there next to me. And I just sit there like I was somebody that was, you know, come on over here, talk to me. And I swear to God, it took him like, I I would say probably 20 minutes before he even said anything to me. Anyway, long story short, we ended up hitting it off, and we ended up getting married almost a year later to the date. And right now, we're just working currently. Right now, I'm working on building a nonprofit organization called LMBME, where I try to teach BIPOC education and the school system here in California. So that is going great. And then I'm going to pass it over to Brandon and have him chat a little bit more about himself.
Oh, boy. Well, like he said, I'm Brandon. The funny story about me and him meeting was actually that I wasn't supposed to be at the karaoke. I was 700 miles away the day of karaoke, and I just got the feeling that I needed to go to karaoke because my friend sent me a letter saying, "Hey, I'm having karaoke for the first time and you should come." I'm like, okay, cool. Got in my car and drove 700 miles and met him that night.
Wow.
So it just kind of was really weird. And the reason that I didn't talk to him for the first 20 minutes was because I was talking to my friend, trying to get up the nerve to go talk to this hot guy to the left of me. So, yeah. And I've been in the entertainment industry for about 10 years. I was a talent agent, and now I own my own management company, and I also own a beauty line called Truth and Love Beauty, and just been really working on building a brand that I can bring organic beauty products like shampoo bars that are plastic free and stuff to people, and try to help the environment.
I love that. I think the story of you guys meeting is so cute. And it was interesting because last week I had two couples on and they had the same anniversary. And so your story topped that. Like, I think that was just that drove all that way. So Mama A, give it to us.
As far as me, I am in property management is one of my three major careers in my life. The other two being pathology and education. How we met. Okay, so this is going to be the very, very, very G-rated.
Thank you.
In 2010, in 2010, I was living in Orlando, Florida, decided that I had had enough of the mouse. So it was time for me to go back to where I was my happiest, and that was Vegas. So in 2011, as a matter of fact, January 21st, 2011, I arrived in Las Vegas, and my entire headspace was, I'm just going to be a whole the rest of my life. I had turned 40. Nobody was sticking. I was done. I was just over it. It was the traditional stick and move, just stick and move. That's all I was looking for. On March 16th, I met Jeff online. It went from looking at each other's pictures to a quick chat to then the phone. And for 3 months, we just chatted on the phone, emails, online. We finally met on June 18th of 2011. And we literally haven't been apart since. We got married in 2017. So we had been together quite a while before getting married. And of all places, in Texas. We got married in Texas. We bought our first house in Texas. And then last year, we decided to move to the Pacific Northwest to be closer to family. So that's the G-rated version.
All right. Well, we'll save the full version for the after hours.
Okay, we can do that.
Again, folks, I just want to let you know that if you do have any comments for just anyone in particular on the cast today, or just general comments, you can definitely comment them below. I also see that I'm getting some emails, so I'll share some of the comments that I'm getting in my email. You can send those to Norman at overthetopliving.com. So let's just go ahead and kick this thing off. So we're going to start with you, Adrian, since you just spoke last. How has your race or your partner's race posed a challenge for you or your partner?
I think so on my side, the challenge was being hypersensitive.
What do you mean?
Growing up in the South, experiencing racism basically daily, not just in school, but just in going to the places that I want to go, being a little black boy in the hood in ballet, not an accepted thing. So I was hypersensitive about it. And at the time that I knew that he was the one, anyone looking our way that looked like they might want to say something might have caught these hands. So that's the way our first 3 years, that's the way we conducted. On his side, it was more that first time realization of going into Walmart and noticing that people are like watching us, like employees popping up everywhere we go, the same employee, thinking that we're stealing, but when he goes by himself, that's not happening. So the new revelation of a very small part of what I went through or what I go through on a daily basis started to shine for him and make it more apparent of how society really is.
Okay, that's the concept of being hypersensitive. That really resonates with me, and I'll share a little bit about my story a little bit later. But what about you boys? Like, how has race, either one of your race, from either one of you, how has it posed a challenge, or has it posed a challenge?
Well, let's unpack this. So my whole family is from Salt Lake City, Utah. They are all very devout Mormons. So bringing Greg home the first time I brought him home to meet them, I was terrified. I was terrified that they were not going to love him, that they were not going to like him, that they were going to disown me for marrying a man that was not of my color, or something. There was going to be something about it. My brothers have been very open about their racism my whole childhood. I grew up in a very small town where the first black person I ever met was in 6th grade. It was a very white neighborhood. And so when I brought Greg home, I felt like I was going to have a heart attack every 5 seconds. But my mom just opened her arms and fell in love with this guy. She just loves him. And every time she calls me on the phone, she asks about him. And it's been a great way to open up conversation about their racism through our relationship, because they're able to learn about another side of the world, something that they don't really know. My mom grew up in a town that at the time was like 100 people. So, in that world with her family, it was a very big issue with race. So she asked me questions all the time. My brothers ask me questions all the time. And I try to be as open and as honest as I can with them so that they can learn and move forward in it.
Yes. And with my particular family, so I grew up, I'm biracial. So I'm Black, Mexican, and Cherokee, so Native American. And so on my dad's side, I get the traditional Black side, where it's, first of all, it's not okay to be gay. Second of all, you're going to be gay and you're going to bring a white man into my mom's house, which is it started so much conversation, and it wasn't good. And still today, it's not good, because one of the last conversations that I had with my father at the time, he told me, he said, it's still not too late to change your mind. And this is a year after we were already married. And I was like, that's not going to be right.
Right.
So I ended up having to end that conversation. And when my grandmother passed away last April, it was very shocking and jeering for my family on my father's side to, one, even fathom the fact that there's this random white person around a traditional Black Episcopalian church, not to mention that the person that they're coming with is someone that is openly gay, which is already something spooky. So that's already caused that contention within my family on my dad's side. On my mom's side, being Mexican, it's very different because they're really accepting of white people just in general. Their biggest race issue was actually black people. So my issue with that I've had growing up and being with my family was whether or not I would be accepted, not if he would be accepted. And it was really weird to have that conversation because first and foremost, I'm one of the few openly gay people in my family, but I'm darker skinned than everyone in my family. And so that brought that conversation up to me on being in front of my aunts on, first off, you guys shunned me, my mom, and my other sister for the first 10 years of our births because my mom married a black man and had biracial children. So bringing him around wasn't ever a question. It was more about, okay, will they accept me for being gay and being colored? And so it was a kind of a weird thing, not to mention the cultural difference. Like I'm coming from an Episcopalian black family that is loud and boisterous and has an opinion for everything. And then I'm coming from a traditional Mexican family that wants to party and drink all the time to now being thrown into a Mormon family that barely drinks and they have this close-knit family that just want to hug and say, I love you all the time.
I don't know. My mom can get down on some moonshine.
Yes. So
it's so interesting, Gregory, not to cut you off, but I just have to point out how amazing that is, that duality. And again, I truly believe that there is a certain duality that other people will never understand. You know, I watched a movie Trade, and the quote stuck with me, and it says, being a black man in America is a reality that will never be justified. So imagine being a black gay man.
correct.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a certain line that it's like on a tightrope. There's a certain way that we maneuver. It's like you can't be, at least in my situation, I felt like I had to be more, like I couldn't be as black around my white friends or as gay around my black, like the black people that I was around. And so it was a very interesting duality. Would you say that you kind of experienced something similar to that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest things so in my family, they're really big on masculinity. So when I'm around that aspect of the family, I have to pretend to be more masculine than what I am. So that means, not wearing as bright of colors, not dressing as well, not feeling like me around these people. So I have to find a way to balance, how I view myself and having this balance of masculinity and femininity to now being overly masculine, which has me feeling fake. And then around other white persons, it was about balancing this kind of joking mentality and not being too serious, if that makes sense. Because you know how Hollywood kind of paints black people, you got to be their best friend. You have to come around with the jokes and be able to read people on a dime and do all this other jazz and blah, 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 blah. And I had to over accentuate that when I was around other people because they thought I was going to be the life of the party. And then also on the flip side of it, there was days in which where I was like, you know what, just leave me alone. I just want to sit here quiet, sit at this bar, drink this beer, and not have to talk to nobody. But so it was about balance.
I love how you're able to articulate that. Adrian, I see the wheels turning, and so I took a quick note. So the first thing that opened your eyes that I saw was when Gregory was talking about the hyper masculinity, and I call it toxic and fragile masculinity. So talk about that, because I saw your wheels turning about that as he was talking about that. And one thing that he specifically said that I saw your eyes were like, where he said he wasn't feeling like me. I'm not feeling like me. Talk a little bit about that in your own experience.
My family is from Eufaula, Alabama.
Where is
That's a lot. It's huge. My grandmother, I think, is the oldest girl of 15. So we have 18 acres there, and we went every single summer. Every other year was a family reunion. Everything was centered around religion, prayer, the whole 9 yards. So I took a different approach. My male cousins were always up to something, playing some kind of a sport, talking loud, hitting each other, playing football, those type of things. I played the quiet, reserved nerd. It was easier for me than to try to match their masculinity. Keep in mind, I graduated high school at about 98 pounds. So I'm the tiniest, shut up. I'm the tiniest. Yeah, she ain't 98 pounds no more. But I'm the tiniest thing in the room. And it became one of those things where I learned that my tongue was sharper and more deadly than my fists.
Oh, I know that to be true.
I could, careful. I could cut them down so fast because no one ever heard me speak. But at the same time, you're in this cage and you want to get out. I wanted to go and play jump rope and double dutch with my girl cousins. I wanted to go and help in the kitchen. I wanted to help decorate. I wanted to be a part of that planning. I want to be a part of the history telling of our family. I wanted to be a part of the program. I wanted to be a part of the art side of it. And all we could do was gather wood for the fire that night, go to the store, fix this, make sure that everybody's safe. It is a dual-edged sword on that, because as a Hayes, I learned my place as a male in my family. And that stems from our history going all the way back to Africa. The men were there to protect and to provide. That's it.
Right.
I learned the value of Black women because of those situations. So for me, some of that has turned back into positive. I don't discount the negative that happened, but at the same time, at some point, you grow out of it, you get past it. Like him, Jeff was the only person anyone in my family has ever met that I've dated. The only one.
Can you tell the audience why? I think that this is a very interesting thing to hear, especially in the gay community.
Well, here's the thing. Majority of my family are female. You hear it all the time. I don't want my front door to be a revolving door. Don't be bringing every dude you're dating. And we watched our cousins. I didn't have siblings at the time, but we watched our cousins. I'm in love with this guy. Oh no, this is my life partner. Oh, well, this is who I'm dating now. And then a week later, oh no, this is not the same guy, it's somebody different. You watch that. And I think it's a Virgo trait. I'm watching them and learning from their mistakes. Like, I'm not trying to do all of that. I made a promise to my grandmother that the only person she'll ever meet from me is the one I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. Having a revolving door for your family takes away your validity. It takes away your voice, because, after number 5, everything you say about how this person treats you and how much you love you are, it gets very watered down.
I feel attacked.
This is a life lesson, but it comes down to, they knew the day I said, hey, there's somebody I want you guys to meet. We're going to drive from Houston, Texas to Jacksonville, Florida for 4 days. It's very important that you guys meet him, because this is the person I'm going to marry. The silence, and I was only talking to one person, but I could hear the silence of my entire family, because my grandmother is the operator. Information,
okay,
and it goes out to everybody else. She's the matriarch of the family. You don't play with Ruth, period. So it was just one of those things that everybody knew it was serious, because I don't talk about dating. I don't talk about that part of my life. I came out to my family when I was 30. I met Jeff when I was 40. So I had the privilege of time for them to get used to the gay part. The thing that I think helped me was the fact that they noticed that literally nothing has changed.
Right.
It's just another part of my life.
Right.
Except for I've become more outgoing and more vocal. They were used to the quiet, reserved. People at school thought I was heavily religious. People in the church thought I was autistic for a while. It just, everybody had a story. But it came down to when they met Jeff, they knew that was it. Now, I will say this. I was very blessed and highly favored with this because not one negative thing has come out of it from anybody in my immediate family. Mostly because my grandmother threatened them with their life.
Okay.
Yeah.
On his side, it has been nothing but welcoming. And honestly, we are teaching our respective families a new way of looking at the world. My in-laws lived in a bubble. They didn't know until the Black Lives Movement and all of the videos and all of the police brutality. They didn't research any of that before because it didn't impact them directly. Now that I'm a part of the family, they're in there and they're in there deep and they can't believe what they're seeing. And it's changing everything. And all that started with one thing. We went to the movies and I told they live in Monmouth, Oregon. Scary place. I saw one person in 6 months. We were at the movies and I was just like, I feel uncomfortable. And Jeff said it to his family and they were just like, well, I don't understand why you're uncomfortable. You know, we don't have that problem here. And I was just like, well, you don't see it. And they were just like, well, we've never thought about that before. I was like, because you don't have to.
Right.
And I think that hit a light bulb for them. And that's when discovery and research began.
I love that. I'm going to take a break from my prompts because I actually got an email for Gregory and Brandon. And so the question is, are you nervous about having kids due to your family dynamic?
I'll start it off. Because my family is the biggest one, I would say actually no. And the reason is because at this point in my life, to be a part of my life, it's a privilege. And when I say that, I know my father, I cut him off the instant. And I said, you're going to be around for another 30 years. It's up to you to earn that place in my life. So it's going to be even more important for those people that are around me to do that. And it's not that my mom, she's not there. She's not making an effort because she is. She definitely is. She's probably one of my bigger supporters. And if anyone try to come at me, she'll be like, you need to check yourself. So I know she'll do that, but I'm not relying upon her to do that because I'm going to do it myself. And that even means if I need to cut my mom out of my life, I'm ready to do that because I'm paying my own bills. You're not paying my bills. So if you're not doing that, then your opinion doesn't matter.
Baby, I want you to say that again for the back of Mama had to move her hair out of her face.
Yeah.
No. That's a really, really good answer. You know, wow.
And on my side of the family, my whole family has probably asked me, well, my mom and your grandma, Adrian, will probably be like the best of friends because she's the same way. The second that I came out, she sat my whole family up in a line and says, if anybody has a problem with it, you can answer to me. If you don't want to deal with me, get the hell out of my house. And I was like, okay, cool. Awesome. And she's always been that way. She's always been my biggest supporter. And her biggest thing now is, when are you going to have kids? When am I going to have a grandkid? Is it going to be before I die? Come on, let's do something. And so she's been really cool about it. And my brothers they're coming around. My brother Travis absolutely loves Greg. Every single time I go to Utah and he's not there, he's like, where's my brother? I'm like, I love you too.
So our kids, would you guys say that kids are in your future?
Absolutely.
I was just having this conversation the other day with my spirit mom. And she was like, so have you guys ever had that conversation? I said, yeah, we just don't know which route we're going to take yet, which is the biggest thing. It says we don't know if we want to do natural, like the insemination route, or we want to do adoption. So that's more of the biggest concern I think we have. It's not whether we will have kids, whether, when, and how we're going to have them.
Okay. Well, honey, my email is doing a lot over here. Adrian,
can I make a comment to something Adrian said about his family and them going to the movie theater? I would 100% attest to that because of the fact that my whole family and myself, like I said, we came from Utah. I didn't really know a whole lot of things. I had these, they weren't even rose-colored glasses. They were just straight up shadow, dark, black. I didn't see nothing. And it took, for me and Greg, one night we were driving home from a friend's party, and we were in my car. My license was expired. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have registration on my car. I was driving it. Greg was asleep in the passenger seat, drunk and asleep. And I'm driving, just enjoying my good old time. All of a sudden the lights go. And
right. The horror.
I'm just like, okay, cool. And my brain's just like, all right, let's see what they say. Greg is like got this look of terror on his face. I'm like, okay. And so the cop comes around, he talks to me. I give him my ID because I don't even have a driver's license. I have an ID. So he takes my ID, goes into the back, and comes back later and says, "Where's your registration and your insurance?" I'm like, "I don't have it. This car isn't registered. You can check the plates in the back, And he woke up Greg and said, "Can I have your ID?" And so he gave him the ID, and he took that to the back of the car, and came back like 10 minutes later and says, "Will you get out of the car?" and arrested Greg. Took Greg to jail. And I said, "What am I supposed to do?" And he said, "Oh, you can drive home."
The horror.
Like, what in the hell just happened? Like, I don't understand. And, that it was just sheer terror that came over my body. I'm like, this is what people of color deal with every damn day. And I just got a little itty bitty taste of it. And I was in shock. Another day I was in Texas with his family for one of his nieces or his cousin's quinceañeras. And I'd been out in the sun enjoying myself, getting a little tan. And this guy screams out his window, "Go back to Mexico, you wetback." And I'm just sitting there looking around like, who are you talking to? And it just, you don't understand until you see it firsthand. And that's what I think a lot of white people's problem is they don't understand because they haven't seen it firsthand.
Baby. So we're going to come back to that email, Adrian, because Brandon just prompted some of my prompts. And so we're going to keep rolling with it. So, wow. So the next prompt I was going to talk about was, have you encountered public discrimination as a couple? So you guys, you just answered that. So what I would like to do is, Adrian, I would like you to answer that question, and then we'll come back to Gregory to see if he has anything to add about the story that we just heard. So give us an example, if it even exists. Have you encountered a public discrimination situation when you're, with your partner?
I call it micro racism. It's that subtle stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think in general, and there's no nice way of saying this, people know who to fuck with. I'm not the one. And Jeff's worse than me. I said, try Jesus, not me. I mean it. The minute that you look like you might want to say something, there's never been a Karen situation in my life because I was smack Karen. I get fuck. I'm telling you right now, I fight old people, children, and women. I don't care. You can feel that from certain people. And then there are others who are just living their lives as normal, and people want to try them because they're trying to, negotiate with terrorists. I ain't doing it. I was a third, fourth, and fifth grade teacher. I told all my students, look, this ain't nothing but a job. Jump if you feeling froggy. America, jump if you feeling froggy. We're not our ancestors. We're not doing this shit no more. Mm-hmm. So no, I don't get blatant shit.
All right, we have a comment. Woo! Jesus, my wig is being thrown back. So we have a comment from Giovanni Adams. It said, it reminds me of the first time I noticed when I was in the backseat of a car and the cop pulled us over. Everyone else in the car was black. He knocked on my window in the backseat to get the driver's license of the driver.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. My mind is blown. Greg, what do you have?
Yeah, I would say I would agree with Adrian. It's a lot for me. It's a lot about microaggressions. Like there's stuff that to me is very blatant. So today, let's take for instance today, we went to we took our dog to the vet. We were going to go pick up the dog. I had the papers. I paid for it, everything. And when they brought our dog out, little Miss Daisy May, when they brought her out, they went directly to him.
Mm-hmm.
Because he, for whatever reason, they assume that he was more
affluent.
Correct. He was more affluent. And I'm there and I have my jewels and stuff on. And I don't necessarily do it. I wear it for me. I don't wear it to show and flaunt off. But they went directly to him. And so a lot of times like that, when there's different meetings or stuff like that where we're together, servers or people go directly to him first. Mm-hmm. But when they come to realize that he then turns back to me to see what I'm going to do first, then they try to change their script. And that's a daily occurrence every single day that we go out everywhere.
And even when we took Daisy in, I was like, this is actually going under Greg. It's his dog. You know, I want it under Greg's, or Greg's going to deal with all of the stuff. I want it under his name. And she looked at me dead in the eyes and said, you don't want it under your name? I'm like, no. I want it under his.
This is where?
This was at Petco.
Yeah, Banfield, PetSmart.
Ooh.
And I'm just like, did you not hear the words that came out of my mouth?
And then it's different where, you know, I may not have the sharpest tongue. I try to tell people based off my smarts. And so when I say something, I'm not saying something for you to question me. I'm going to say it one time and I want you to listen. And so it's a different approach, but it's definitely how I kind of correct that microaggression.
I love it.
He can read you with a smile on.
I love it because reading is
fundamental.
Wow. Okay, so, and this is in California.
Yes.
Well, it was in Vegas when we got pulled over.
But the Petco thing was in California.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this may have to be a part 3. Like we might have to do our next 2 weeks because I already have those planned out, and we might have to circle back because there's so much here. I'm going to throw this out here, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story, and then I'm going to pose the question, and we'll talk about it. So, part of me doing the work, and when I started my business, Over the Top Living, is I literally had to do a lot of, as you would say, I had to read myself, right? I had to deal with a lot of junk and a lot of crap that was in there. And I realized that there was some internalized racism there towards other Black people. Mm-hmm. And I felt a lot of that came from the fact that, you know, like, I felt like in my experience, like I definitely was bullied and picked on and all of that. But in my recollection, and if my mom is watching, Mom, you can, you know, chime in. I want to make sure I'm being accurate, but I felt like I got it worse from my family and I got it worse from the other Black kids at school. And so it got to the point where like, it would make me nervous to be around large groups of Black people. Or like, there was like, if I lived in a certain area of town, like I just wouldn't go out at night. I remember at one point I was living on the northwest side of Chicago, and I mean, it was my first apartment, so I was happy that I had my own spot. But I mean, I lived right in between like the Black and the Puerto Rican gangs in the Paseo Boricua. And so I remember getting ready to go out to the gay club, and I would get down to the front door and like look like out the window to see like, and then I would like unlock my car from the door and then run. And even as I was like go to my car, like I'm hearing like all of this banter and this chatter around me. And so, do you guys feel that you have ever dealt with any like internalized racism towards like a race that you identify as because of some experiences? Let's start with you, Adrian, because you're Ani, you are. So, can you share a little bit about that?
I was in high school. Well, the years I can remember most is between 83 and 87. We all knew who we were. We knew each other. No one talked. But when you go into high school and you find out that 4 of your acquaintances who you knew also were gay were killed, and they were all killed. Understand, I grew up in an all-Black neighborhood. We were the 3rd or 4th. I think we're the 3rd mixed school. So it was only the 3rd time, or the 3rd year in which the school had integrated. And this was in the 80s. We still had all Black schools and all white schools, but the school I went to was a mix. So the white people in school didn't bother me. But every Black dude from my neighborhood, it was always sissy, faggot, all the wonderful, colorful words. When I left and decided to go to the HBCU, I'm like, okay, that part of my life dies, and I'll bring it back to life after I've gotten my education. But you don't stop hearing all of it. So coming out of, I literally was celibate for 7 years. Coming out of college and into the world, I didn't make a decision. It just became this thing where I mostly dated white men. I was mostly, in my head, I was attracted to white men. Now, understand, anyone's trauma, everyone's experience will affect that, and sometimes it's subconscious and you don't realize it. I did not go out there just to say, I'm just going to date white men. Now, looking back, I'm going to be honest with you, my expectations for other brothers, you got to come up to where I'm at. I'm not here to meet you somewhere. Bitch, we need to be on the same wavelength. We got to be in the same lane. I'm not going down there with this is my experience. I'm not dating you with your priors and your situations, and I ain't got time for that. I'm trying to move forward and up.
Your entanglements.
Ah, yeah.
Entanglements.
I can't with it all. Not to mention, I've never dated my own age until Jeff. I've always dated 10 years older because I think I was just born old. So I've always had like an old soul, and I just didn't relate to people my own age. Along with that, there was really only one, oh my God, there was one person that I wish I could have had. I wish I would have dated. And I don't know why I didn't. It just kind of happened. But what I'm finding out is that I am more Black with Jeff than I was growing up. Like, I'm black right now.
Just
like,
black.
Girl, if I can get a beret and a glove for this hand, that's how Black I'm being. And the thing is that I have that freedom to be 100% me. I don't have to pretend. I don't have to change, because this is the thing that people have to understand. You don't want us to be Black all day. We got to put on our Becky with the good hair voice at work. We have to be patient with y'all in public. We have to watch how loud our music is. We have to watch what the lyrics of our music say, even though it's our truth, so that you all can be comfortable. But keep this in mind. I think it's interesting because, bitch, we didn't ask to be here.
So you
So
actually made this a fourth, fifth, sixth. Like, I think we're gonna have a whole separate show, honestly, just for this, because I didn't realize, like, when I came up with this concept, like, I didn't realize how much there was to unpack.
there's a lot.
There's
Girl, we got a whole warehouse.
So this is what I'm thinking. I'm gonna say this live. I want to get together with you two, like you, Greg and Brandon, you, and my two couples from last week, and we won't do it live, but we'll have like a discussion like this, and I'll record it and we'll post it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're ready.
Because I feel like that, then we can kind of just, kind of talk, but I feel like there's a lot here, especially the fact that Greg is half part Mexican, and then George from last week is Mexican. And so I'm very curious to see like how the experiences are similar. Mm-hmm. Man, so thank you guys for volunteering for doing another episode.
You're welcome. Let's expect my check in the mail.
Yes. Well, you keep expecting it. So as we begin to wrap that up, I want to go back to Greg and Brandon. Do you have an experience where you personally have had some internalized racism about, like, man, these white people are crazy, Brandon, or like?
I have noticed, and this is a personal thing in myself, and I've wanted to talk to other white people about it because of the fact that I find myself, I rep a lot of Black people, prominent Black people in the industry. And I find myself having to stop myself from thinking a racist thought because of how I grew up and what I was taught and what was instilled in my head by my family, even though they didn't say the words, they didn't say the N-word, they didn't do anything wrong or that way. I could see how they spoke to a person of color in the store. And how my mom would change the way she reacted to them. And so I got taught that way on how to react to people. And I've had to learn by asking people, talking to people, what to do differently. So there have been times where I have to stop myself and go, no, you're having racist brain, go away. We're not doing that today. And so I want, Adrian said that there are a lot of things that you guys have to do to be the perfect Black people for the white people, and change your ways to every person you talk to. I want to find out why a white person that is racist or has racial thoughts can't do the same thing. Can't be like, oh, I'm being racist right now. Maybe I should stop doing that because I should be a little bit more compassionate or nicer or whatever.
Yes. And then I guess his story aside, for me personally, I find that most of my racism is towards my African American side because a part of me feels, and this is me growing up younger, and me working through it now, and I can reflect and tell you the story. I thought, Greg, you're gay. Your life would be so much easier if you were not Black, too. Like, if I were Mexican, cool. Like, I'm just, everyone wants me a fiesta. Come on, let's go salsa. So we can go do that. But having the gay part of me feels like it's, the Black part of me feels more, I have to be more socially responsible. And so when I see other persons going out, acting a fool, talking about all this other stuff, I tend to feel that they're not representing us and our struggle correctly. And I tend to look down on them. And I know this is like my inherent, like growing up, because my way of coping with stuff is going through the realm of reading, intelligence, going to school, education, and stuff like that. And to see other persons not do the same thing knowing the type of struggle that we're going through and representing themselves in this manufactured way that says, we're going to go down to the liquor store down the corner and we're going to rob you. It played with my mind. So I was kind of like you, Norman and Adrian, where if I went out, I was not going to go out at a certain area of the club, at area of the city at night. I was not about to do that. I did not carry no guns, nothing on me. I can only take Jesus so far. So, and another thing was, I necessarily did not just date solely white people. I dated all over. I found that I had the most shady times, if that makes sense, with a colored person. If that made sense. Like I felt like they were trying to hide something. Like felt like I was trying to pull something out of them that it was just not budging. And it kind of just put a sour taste in my mouth. And I never specifically dated anyone because of their skin tone or anything like that. If I liked you, I vibe with you, we can get along with it. We can get it. But if it wasn't the case, then I found myself not doing that. Like my ex before him, he was African-American male. That's 20 years my senior. But that's usually where I would go. But the inherent racism that I had was how people act and whether or not I was going to associate with them, because I already have too much to worry about personally, because now I have to carry the world on my shoulders. Now, all of a sudden, you over here acting a damn fool, and now I have to compensate for your ignorance. So now I can be and have the life that I want to have and not have to walk into a store and feel like I'm being profiled because you act in some type of way. So I've worked through it since then. I'm like, just do you. Be louder. Go crazier. But that's because of some of the stuff that's happening right now with the Black Lives Matter movement. And, it's time for us to start showing up and showing out. So that's my piece on there.
Honey, when I tell y'all have scalped me. So, yeah. So as we begin to wrap it up, the question I'm going to leave you all with is this. What would you say to someone who says they don't understand why people date outside of their race? What would you say to that person? I just don't get it. Like, Greg, I just don't get it. Like, did you not find a Black person that was good enough? Like, I don't get it. Like, what do you say to those people? And the reason I ask this is because I have dated of several different types of people. But I've been married twice, and my first husband was Mexican. My second husband is white. And a majority of my boyfriends have been white. And so I get asked that all the time, like, are we not good enough? Or why do you feel like you need a come up? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, so what do you say, like in one sentence, what do you say to someone who is just like, I don't understand why you date outside your race or why you marry someone outside your race?
Well, Greg is actually the first person that is not white that I have ever dated, and I married him. So, point proven.
All right. Well, there you have it. Okay. I like that.
He's, I don't know. That's pretty much about it.
Okay. What about for you, Greg?
Let me think. Hold on. What would I say? For me, I would say something. It's not about the race. It's about the love. If I received the same love from the Black person that I received from this white person, they would be on my arm too. Just this person put a ring on it.
Listen, he gave you a semicolon.
Yeah.
Adrian, what about you? How would you sum that up in one sentence? Just get them together.
Oh, what did I say?
Oh, okay. Well, okay, well, what did you say?
I'm a descendant of kings and queens. Show me your crown and we can talk.
Ooh. Blue.
Period.
Well, listen, friends, on that note,
Done.
On that note, I want to thank my special guest, Adrian Hayes, all the way from the Pacific Northwest. And I want to thank Gregory and Brandon from California. we have definitely initiated a conversation that 1 hour, 2 hour, like it's just not enough. And so I am going to go to the drawing board again and figure out another way that we can do this, because there is so the thing is, because now I'm like, oh, I want to interview some more couples. Like this is something that's going to grow, and I appreciate you growing with me. Really quick, I do want to just put up our guests information so that you can follow them. So Brandon has Truth and Love Beauty, which is truthandlovebeauty.com. Honey, bookmark it, truthandlovebeauty.com. Also, I'm really excited about, Greg, and me and you will talk offline about this because this is really exciting. The LMB Me for the what is the BIPOC stand for?
BIPOC, Black Indian Persons of Color.
Love it. Education in schools. So if you are interested to learn more about the LMB Me by BIPOC Education in Schools, which is for Black and Indian people of color, direct message Gregory, direct message him to learn more about this. This is amazing. They're bringing education to schools and shining a light on something that needs to have the light shine on it. So I commend you both for what you both do in your individual respects. Also, Mama A, you know I love you to pieces. Mama A is one of the first people I met when I moved to Las Vegas and took me under his wing. And she would read me, sometimes that's how I know that tongue is slick. But it was done in love, and I just love you for that. Lastly, I do just want to thank again my sponsor, which is Hungry Hustle. They have everything you need for all of your custom apparel and merchandise needs. Pins, t-shirts, baseball caps, fanny packs. My sister just made me a wallet. So whatever you need, reach out to Hungry Hustle at hungryhustlemovement@gmail.com. So friends, you already know who it is, but I don't mind giving you a slight reminder. It's your best friend, your good Judy, your next door neighbor, your niece, your cousin, your nephew. And I've recently been promoted to great auntie. It is Norman J. Liverpool IV, and I'm so happy that you stay tuned for another edition of What's the LGBT. Don't forget, next week, we are talking about what's the T in LGBT. I got my girl Crystal Cassadine, Elena Pendavis. Nick, we are going to talk about the T in LGBT. So again, we will see you this Saturday at 9 a.m. for Sassy Assy Saturdays, and right back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Friends, I tell you this every damn day. You are the shit. Get up and act like it.